I consider myself to be someone who follows politics quite closely, but 4 days into this campaign, I'm pretty fatigued and over it already. And that's concerning because I know how important this election is for our future. We've seen politicians try to start culture wars, the media focusing on gotcha moment questions rather than actual policy, and just general scare campaigns rather than coherently discussing issues. With another 5 weeks left before the election, what does the panel think needs to change to be done to stop people from turning off during the campaign?
Boy, over it already. Chris Bowen.
Well, thanks for your question, Lara, and I do understand where you're coming from. I completely do get it.
Are you over it already?
Well, I'm at a different perspective to Lara, but I understand where you're coming from. But I guess, Lara, while you're 100% right about every point you make, what this election is about is up to you and up to everyone and up to the Australian people. I think this election is about values and vision, and we are putting values and vision before the people. We're putting the vision that Australia should be a country where we can actually care for our elderly who've contributed so much to the country, and every nursing home should have a nurse to look after them. We're putting the vision that we should have a national federal ICAC to ensure that all people acting federally are acting with integrity. We're putting the vision of investing in Medicare, and we're putting the values about honesty and integrity. We're not going to get everything right, but when we do, we'll acknowledge we haven't got it right, as Anthony has done, and said that's a mistake. So those are the values and vision that we're putting forward. Now, it's up to the Australian people to decide what's important to them. Yeah, I get what you're saying. You know, we don't all need to be a walking encyclopedia. It is about the future. This is about a better future for our country. That's what we're all about. We are saying we've wasted the last 9 years as a country. There's been too much of that division, too much identity politics, dividing Australians amongst each other. We want a country that's united around a national aim, a national goal, whether it's acting on climate change or caring for our elderly, as I said. Big, important national goals which require leadership. We don't think Andrew's team, the Liberal National Party, has provided that leadership over the last 9 years. We don't think we really don't believe what they have. So it's up to us to put the alternative vision. And we are putting that forward. Yep, there's going to be scrappier moments and, you know, what the media reports on, that's all legitimate. But ultimately, it's your call. And it's a call of all our fellow Australians to make that judgment based on those competing alternative visions and values that we're putting forward.
Andrew Bragg's a bit of a pox on both houses, isn't it, to hear so early on that people are turned off. And everything Chris Bowen has said, I'm sure Lara, I'm sure everyone else has heard this before, and they've seen your record in office, and 1 week in, you're not the first person I hear it from, Lara. People are saying, gee, I'm over this because they're not hearing leadership.
Well, Lara, I understand that people don't want to see 5 weeks of gotcha moments. But I would say that if you're running for the office of Prime Minister, you need to know what the basic facts are. And what we saw this week was that the person running for PM didn't know what the unemployment rate was, which is a pretty big gaffe. So this is a debate about Australia's economic future, because unless you get the economic settings right, then you actually can't run a very successful country. So that's why week one has been about the economy, and that's what it's about. It's about Australia's economic future.
Lara, we've just heard from one side and the other, and they both criticised each other. Is that your point? That's what you're tired of?
That's kind of the point, isn't it? And I feel like Adam Bank kind of hit the nail on the head the other day at the National Press Gallery, where he said that this election should be about ideas and discussing and creating a vision. And Chris, like what you just said then, I wish I heard more of that, whether it's the fact that the media is not reporting on it or that, like, maybe I'm not following the press conferences accurately enough, but that kind of conversation is what I want to be hearing, and less of the talking about not understanding or having memorised specific facts, because his shadow minister knew it straight from behind.
Okay, just hold that thought, because I'll go to you, Osher. Is the media failing here, and did we make too much of the Albanese gaffe? Because both Chris Bowen and Andrew Bragg have gone straight to that tonight.
Yeah. I'm a man. My wife Audrey's here tonight. She'll send me out for a litre of milk and I'll come back with a loaf of bread. I'll forget stuff like that. I don't care if these guys
But you're not running to be Prime Minister yet.
Not yet, Stan. I don't care. I don't care which one of these guys doesn't know a number. What I want to know is, like, which one of these people has, like, a grand vision, like a massive vision. Like, within my son is 2.5. By the time he finishes high school, we're looking at 1.5 degrees of warming, all right? So our country currently is doing its best to sell all the fossil fuels before the fun stops, all right? Who's got the vision to go, right? Currently, fossil fuels are about $70 billion. currently iron ore is about $70 billion. Green steel, $700 billion, all right? Who's got the vision to say, we're going to capture the solar of our country, we're going to turn Australia into the foundry of the world? Who's with me? Like, nobody. All right? Okay. That's what I want.
Hands up, just a bit of a straw poll. Things like the Albanese gaffe the other day, which took up an entire day of coverage, hands up who thinks that matters? Very, very few. Megan, so what does that say? Where is the failure?
I think Lara's right. I mean, the gotcha moment is really frustrating for Australians who are living through, as Osher says, really acute climate change impacts. Inequality is really, severe in Australia. That's something that we'll talk about in the show. But I mean, the Albanese gaffe, I mean, it's not like he's going to be in the lodge with an abacus and a hurricane lamp. He could text Jim Chalmers. Jim Chalmers looks like a pretty good future treasurer and comes from Logan like I do, Stan. But really, I mean, we're a sophisticated Western liberal democracy. We have, a very strong and robust Westminster system. We have bureaucracies that help the government of the day. And I think at the end of the day, it's pretty disappointing if in the first week of our election, the future of our democracy and the Australian people rises and falls on a gaffe. But
Megan, I know people here not many people put their hand up for it, but it wasn't a litre of milk or the price of bread. It was the number of people unemployed. That should be a number stamped into every potential Prime Minister, surely.
He knows what the unemployment rate is.
He didn't. That was the problem, isn't it?
I appreciate that, but the same as Osher said, people who are really busy, especially in these kinds of 6-week campaigns. I mean, it was just a gaffe, Stan. I just think most Australians are not thinking about that. They're thinking about the fact that, the cost of living. They're thinking about that they don't have nowhere to live in Lismore. They're thinking about after the bushfires 2 years ago, they still don't have anywhere to live, and Aboriginal communities, are really suffering. I think Australians are thinking about things other than that.
Kate McBride, one of the things that we've seen is a rise of independence and people looking elsewhere. In the bush, what's landing there? And we're seeing a lot of an independent movement as well in rural seats, aren't we? Why?
Absolutely. I think it's often painted as a bit of a, people in the cities that only care about, climate change and ICAC. But this is a massive trend, and it's people turning off the major parties and, getting behind people that they know what they stand for. And it's really important things. And it's people right across Australia. And I think that's one of the most important things that I think comes with these independents is they're real people and we know what they stand for. They're putting their constituents first instead of the party. And I think too often with the two major parties, we often see, they vote with the party and not what the people that have chosen for them to represent. So I think that's a real failure of the two-party system. And I'm really excited about these independents. I think having more women in Parliament, having people that want action on climate change. I mean, people want that. 78% of regional Australians think we're already experiencing climate change. This isn't a city problem. We're often painted by the National Party to say that we don't care about climate change. It's simply not true. We're on the front lines of this. So I think it's important to exactly your point that this is going big out in the bush too.